The tension does not fade with time. Instead, it grows denser, settling into the mansion like a second, unseen structure layered over the physical one. It inhabits corridors, staircases, and rooms, shaping behavior silently and persistently. Every movement feels slightly restrained, every interaction measured. Conversations lose their natural rhythm, becoming careful and economical, stripped of warmth and spontaneity. Words are chosen not to express emotion or truth, but to avoid triggering another confrontation. Silence, once neutral, now carries weight and implication. Even when the house grows quiet, no one inside truly rests. Muzayan retreats from open confrontation, but emotionally she remains fully engaged. Her anger does not disappear, it transforms. What was once explosive condenses into something colder, sharper, and more deliberate. She moves through the house with controlled precision, her posture composed, her expressions restrained. Yet beneath that composure, her awareness sharpens. She observes everything: who speaks, who avoids speaking, who hesitates before answering simple questions. Every interaction becomes data. Her mind assembles fragments into patterns, convincing itself that vigilance is no longer optional but essential. She cannot escape the image of her children standing on the edge of death. The thought intrudes relentlessly, resurfacing in moments of stillness and invading her sleep. What terrifies her most is not the violence itself, but how close it came to becoming permanent. The realization that protection failed, even for a moment, wounds her more deeply than the ambush itself. To Muzayan, this was not an isolated incident, it was proof that the boundary between safety and catastrophe has already been crossed. In her logic, time has become a liability. Delay feels dangerous, waiting feels irresponsible. She believes that if the source of the threat is not confronted decisively, it will return stronger, bolder, and less forgiving. In this framework, restraint becomes indistinguishable from denial. To hesitate is to invite disaster. Haydar, whether proven guilty or not, comes to embody everything she fears. His composure unsettles her. His refusal to show visible concern reads not as calm, but as calculation. His arrogance feels intentional, almost provocative. Every time he minimizes the gravity of what happened, her certainty hardens. To her, indifference is not neutrality, it is a warning. She convinces herself that motherhood leaves no room for ambiguity, that love demands action, not patience, that protecting her children requires decisiveness, even if it fractures relationships beyond repair. In her mind, unity built on uncertainty is not unity at all, but a fragile illusion waiting to collapse. Ates experiences the aftermath from a fundamentally different angle. His exhaustion is not limited to physical injury. It is moral and psychological. The ambush drained his body, but the confrontation inside the house drains something deeper. He feels stretched between responsibilities that all feel absolute: protecting Merkin, preserving family stability, and preventing the household from tearing itself apart under suspicion. He understands Muzayan's fear more deeply than she realizes. He felt it firsthand when bullets tore through the air, when Merkin stood one misstep away from death. He does not dismiss that fear, nor does he underestimate it. But he also understands how fear distorts judgment, how quickly it can transform suspicion into certainty and anger into irreversible action. For Ates, the danger is no longer only external. It is internal, structural. He sees how easily the family could collapse under the weight of its own panic. He knows that once accusations turn into action without proof, there is no undoing the consequences. His insistence on restraint is not rooted in trust, it is rooted in containment. He is trying to hold a fragile line between control and chaos, even as that line erodes beneath his feet. Yet holding that line isolates him. To some, his restraint feels cold, almost detached. To others, it resembles weakness disguised as principle. It senses the shift in how he is perceived, and it weighs heavily on him. He begins to realize that leadership, especially in moments of fear, rarely appears reasonable to those who are desperate for certainty. Merkin watches all of this unfold from a place of deep internal conflict. The ambush has already fractured her sense of reality, and the family's unraveling compounds that fracture. She feels increasingly out of place inside the very house meant to shelter her. Safety no longer feels collective, it feels conditional and fragile. She empathizes with Muzayan's fear, yet recoils from its intensity. She understands Aitz's restraint, yet doubts whether restraint alone can protect anyone in a world that has already proven how easily safety can be destroyed. She stands between two opposing responses to fear, unable to fully align with either. The tension leaves her suspended, emotionally drained, uncertain where she belongs or whom she should trust. The nights become the most difficult. Darkness amplifies everything daylight distracts from. Footsteps echo too loudly. Doors closing feel final rather than ordinary. Even sleep offers little refuge, as the house itself seems to hold its breath, waiting for the next fracture to appear. The armed men outside remain a constant presence. They are meant to reassure, yet they also confirm that normalcy has been permanently disrupted. The mansion is guarded, but it is not healed. Protection has replaced peace. Daily routines lose their rhythm, meals feel quieter, conversations fragmented. Topics are avoided not because they are unimportant, but because they are too volatile to touch. The ambush has transformed every discussion into potential conflict, every disagreement into risk. What once felt like family life now resembles strategic coexistence. Gradually, it becomes clear that the household is no longer united by trust, but by proximity. They remain together not because they agree, but because separation feels even more dangerous. Fear of fragmentation rivals fear of the external threat. Musayan grows increasingly convinced that decisive action is inevitable, even if it destroys what remains of harmony. In her eyes, Aitz's restraint begins to resemble emotional attachment rather than rational judgment. She fears that his concern for Merkin clouds his ability to act when action is required. Aitz senses this shift and feels the ground beneath him destabilize further. He understands that his role is no longer mediation, it is resistance. And resistance, he knows, comes at a cost. The ambush has altered the internal hierarchy of the family. Authority feels unstable. Respect becomes conditional. Loyalty is tested not by time, but by crisis. Even silence becomes a position, whether intended or not. By the time days pass, it is undeniable that the ambush was not merely an attack, it was a catalyst. It exposed fault lines that had existed quietly for years and forced them violently to the surface. It compelled everyone inside the mansion to confront uncomfortable truths that safety is fragile, that trust is conditional, and that love does not guarantee protection. Nothing is resolved, no clear enemy is named. No reassurance truly comforts, the confrontation does not end, it evolves, embedding itself into daily life and reshaping relationships from within. The mansion remains physically unchanged, its walls solid, its rooms familiar. But emotionally, it has become something else entirely, a place governed by vigilance rather than warmth, by suspicion rather than ease. What was once home now feels like contested ground. The ambush may have ended in survival, but its true impact unfolds here, quietly and relentlessly, dismantling certainty piece by piece. Whatever comes next will not be decided by bullets alone, but by choices already set into motion, choices that no one inside the house can any longer avoid or ignore.